First, I would like to thank you for acquiring this course. It will be focused on privacy and personal data adapted to the needs of today, and also some concepts, technologies, methodologies, and also software to best understand how these concepts work. Okay, so let's start with the broad idea just to check what we are talking about. Well, privacy, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is someone's right to keep their personal matters and relationships secret. Well, of course, among other things, privacy in fact is the right to safeguard our life and information and keep our information private. According to the Article 12 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interferences with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attack upon his honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interferences or attack. Well, unfortunately, this does not apply to everyone, but it leads us to the question: is there liberty without privacy? And what about democracy? Because, in fact, if we don't have the right to keep our life private, to think on our own, how can democracy works? Because democracy, the principle of the democracy, it's that everyone has a right to their opinion. So therefore, privacy, it's the keystone of democracy among other features. And this leads us to an example of China that has been building what it calls the world's biggest camera surveillance network. It's across the country with 170 million CCTV cameras are already in place, and an estimated 400 million new ones will be installed in the next 3 years. Many of the cameras are fitted with artificial intelligence, including facial recognition technology. There's this short documentary by John Sudworth from BBC where he goes to this police control room, and they set the control room to try to catch him. And after 7 minutes of leaving the premises, they catch him just by using the technology with the CCTV cameras. The link is on the description, and it's a must see for this kind of subject that we are talking about over here. Now, the term personal data. The personal data, it's any information that relates to an identified or identified living individual. It can be different pieces of information which collected together can lead to the identification of a particular person, also constitute a personal data. These are known as the quasi-identifiers that we will see on the next slide. Personal data that has been de-identified, encrypted or pseudonymized, but can be used to re-identify a person remains personal data and falls within the scope of the law. We are going to see some techniques to anonymize data, but nevertheless, if the data is anonymized, it does not mean that it's not related to an individual and that it is not personal data. Also, personal data that has been rendered anonymous in such a way that the individual is not or no longer identifiable, it's no longer considered personal data. For data to be truly anonymized, the anonymization must be irreversible. And this will lead us to the next study. Also, just a quick note for examples of personal data. Well, personal data might be for a name, a surname, an home address, an email address. And for example, if you have an email address on a company and the email address is something like your name dot surname, even when you leave the company, you still have the right to access that email, because the email, in fact, it's a bit of a personal data because it has your name and your surname. Now, we were talking about the quasi-identifiers. Okay? Quasi-identifiers are pieces of information that are not of themselves unique identifiers, but are sufficiently well correlated with an entity that they can be combined with other quasi-identifiers to create a unique identifier. So I better give you an example. For example, Dr. Latenius Uni has shown that even though neither with gender, birth dates, or postal codes unique identifying an individual, the combination of all three is enough to identify 87% of individuals in the United States. And this process is called the re-identification. And this is a quasi-identifiers. It's a term, an element that does not relate directly to someone, but when combined with other quasi-identifiers, most likely will be enough to identify someone.